One of these laptops is not a ThinkPad. It's actually the IBM PS Note, although by now this one is really more of a footnote because it looks like somebody stomped on it. To be fair, this is not shipping damage. I knowingly found and bought it this way at the thrift store due to the rarity of the PS Note. Warning, this video is about to become totally unhinged. IBM introduced the PS Note along with the ThinkPad in the fall of 1992 as their budget model laptop. The IBM PS Note 2141 N82, weighing only 5.2 pounds, comes with Intel 386 SL 25 MHz, 2 MB memory, 85 MB hard disk, 10-inch VGA black and white liquid crystal display with 64 levels of grayscale. It's actually closer to about 9.5 inches, so cheating you out of half an inch of screen size is nothing new. And the PS Note 2141 N82 is only $2,198.88. And it's not just compatible, it's an IBM PS1. Yeah, for some reason within IBM's bureaucracy at the time, they considered the PS Note to be a member of the PS1 family of computers. Unlike the ThinkPad, instead of being sold in computer stores, the PS Note was sold at mass-market retailers like Sears, Montgomery Ward, and Service Merchandise. And if you think older ThinkPad keyboards are nice to type on, the PS Note's keyboard is absolutely glorious. It is so incredibly tactile and snappy and responsive. Just listen to the difference between the PS Note's keyboard and the keyboard of a ThinkPad 560E from 1997. However, I will say it requires a rather heavy touch compared to other laptop keyboards of the era. I guess IBM was trying to mimic the key weighting of the legendary full-size Model M keyboard, despite its much lower profile. The trade-off is that unlike the ThinkPad, it did not come with the famous TrackPoint Eraserhead mouse pointing device built into the keyboard. As that ad mentioned, the PS Note originally came with a trackball that clipped onto the side of the keyboard, like many early 1990s laptops. Below that lovely keyboard on the right-hand side is the diskette drive and the phone jack for the modem. And on the other side is nothing except the charcoal gray finish of the PS Note, which is also unique compared to the black case of the ThinkPad. Behind the keyboard is the power button and a series of indicator lights for low battery, hard disk activity, floppy disk activity, numlock, caps lock, and scroll lock. And to the right of the LCD panel are sliders to adjust its brightness and contrast, and what I believe is the PC speaker beeper. This does not have any sound card functionality. And yes, the PS Note counts as a notebook computer because it's approximately the same footprint as a paper notebook, although in this case I think they meant A4 paper because it's slightly taller and skinnier than the letter paper we use here in the US. On the rear panel is the power input jack, a PS2 port for an external keyboard or mouse. I do not know if you could use a splitter to use both at the same time. Serial and parallel ports, external VGA monitor output port, I believe that's a reset button right there, and the power switch, which normally would have been hidden under a door, just like the Apple PowerBooks of the time. The thought being these laptops were so energy efficient that you would not actually ever turn them off, you would just leave them in sleep mode when you were not using them. On the bottom is more cracked plastic, a door for accessing the battery, which in this case is actually a nickel metal hydride battery pack, not NiCad, although it is an original IBM battery from 1993. And then another trapdoor for upgrading the RAM. That looks like a standard 72-pin SIM socket, but knowing IBM at the time, it may be proprietary. It could accept up to an 8 megabyte SIM expanding it from 2 megabytes on the motherboard to 10 megabytes total. And there's the information printed on the bottom. It's IBM Type 2141, copyright 1992, and the power supply for it is 15 volts at 1.9 amps. The center pin of this power input jack is quite a bit larger in diameter than any of the laptop power supplies I have. Even an IBM ThinkPad power supply doesn't fit, so I'll need to rig up some kind of adapter. Okay, I made an adapter so I can non-destructively use an old ThinkPad power supply to power the PS Note. This puts out 16 volts instead of 15, but that should be close enough. And it isn't indicated anywhere, so I checked, and the polarity is center positive, which you can't always assume because some older laptops were center negative. I won't be surprised if this thing is totally dead, because in addition to the damage it has obviously already sustained, as I've been handling this computer, little bits of plastic and metal have been breaking off and falling out of it. So let's just plug it in and see what happens. Okay, the power switch on the back is turned off, so I'll turn that on. Nothing yet, so I'll try pushing the power button. And nothing. Not a surprise. Wait, I jiggled the plug a little bit off camera and it sprang to life, so let me see. The screen is glowing, but I'm not seeing anything readable on it. The brightness does affect the display, but it's possible the cable going to the display is broken, so we're not seeing anything. I did hear it beep, so let me hit Control-Delete. Okay, that did seem to have an effect. Heard the floppy drive seek. I can hear the hard drive spinning, but it doesn't seem to be booting. But double beep indicates some kind of problem, so usually on IBMs, to get past that, you press F1, so I'll try that. No, it's not trying to boot. So, let me try an external... What? Wait. It just shut off for some reason. Okay. Let me try an external monitor. I have an external monitor connected now, but unfortunately I can't seem to get any output from it. Turn it on, you would think it would just default to the external display if it detects that one is plugged in, but it's still using the built-in one, and I don't see any keyboard command to switch between the internal and external displays. Well, even though it shows some signs of life, I seem to be at a roadblock because the internal LCD is not working. External monitor output is not working, or at least I can't figure out how to enable it. And now I'm not even sure if the keyboard is working because, for example, when I push caps lock, the indicator doesn't come on. Control-Delete doesn't seem to do anything. So unfortunately, that's as much as I can demonstrate with this badly battered PS Note. The light's on, but nobody's home. When PC Magazine reviewed the PS Note in their December 1992 issue, they wrote the IBM PS Note N45 SL, IBM's first competitively priced portable, is a PC with a split personality. There's a lot to recommend this $2,045 25 MHz 386 SL notebook, but there are some flaws. They liked the keyboard, calling it comfortable and spacious, but they said the screen, however, is a disappointment. The 9.5-inch LCD is difficult to read without constantly manipulating the display controls or tilting the screen. They summed it up by saying the PS Note N45 SL is well designed and performs respectably, but the package loses points for its screen. By the spring of 1993, the price of the PS Note was slashed to under $1,500 when mail-order discount vendor USA Flex began selling it, and in June of 1993, IBM introduced a new range of PS Note models which were much better equipped, with a 486 processor, more RAM, larger hard drive, the TrackPoint pointing device from the ThinkPad, an optional color LCD, and a PicMickey slot. But meanwhile, USA Flex was still trying to clear out the remaining stock of the original 386 model PS Note, now offering a $100 rebate, good through January 31st, 1994. And in March of 1994, IBM officially canceled the PS Note series, saying they were going to consolidate it within the entry-level ThinkPad 300 series, which would be offered in the same consumer-oriented channels that the PS Note had been sold through. So in the end, there really wasn't much noteworthy about the IBM PS Note other than the sublime feel of its keyboard. You could say the PS Note is not all it's cracked up to be.